guys, I'm Kelly T and I'm here with the founding members of Aussie pioneering death metal legends, Abramelin. I've got guitarist Tim and vocalist Simon. Welcome, guys.
How you doing?
Good, thank you. Thanks for joining me. I want to put this argument to bed straight away because I recently did a review of your latest album, Enough Snuff, and I upset the masses with my pronunciation of your band name. So put this baby to bed. How do you guys pronounce it?
Well, you got it right.
Okay, sorry, can you say that again?
As I tried to put it in words on Facebook, which is always difficult because it doesn't, come across so clean, but it's tomato, 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 tomato. It's a castle. It's some people say Abramelin, some people say Abramelin. I like to think both is correct. So, yeah.
To be fair, I said Abramelin for years until I was corrected by someone quite snootily, and forever after that it was Abramelin. So anyway, I just wanted to put that one to bed. But let's talk about your latest release, this banger here. This one turned up for me yesterday. Actually, I was so excited. This is probably one of the most anticipated death metal albums that we've been waiting for. How did you feel about this album pre-release? And given that the overwhelming response that you've had straight away from media, how do you feel about it now? Has it been aligned?
Tim?
It has been really overwhelming. People have been so nice with their comments, so accepting of it. And it's been a bit of a shock, really. I always thought the songs were grouse.
Yeah.
But now everyone else is thinking it too, so it's pretty happy, actually.
Oh, that's always good. Yeah, you have had absolute, as soon as it hit, the reviews were coming in hard and fast and they were all very positive. So big congratulations. It's an absolute exceptional listen, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. So this is the first full-length release in 20 years it's been 20 years since Dead Speak. Life happens, like we all know that. During that time, I know you guys have been playing the live scene in the last few years, but majority of that 20 years, were you taking a bit of hiatus from music in general, or?
Well, I wasn't. I had a bit of time off in the early 2000s, sort of with life and whatnot. Then by around about 2008, I joined the Berserker. Did some national and international touring with them. Came back from that, joined a friend's band called Heaven the Axe, played bass in that for a little while. And then I joined the Amenta from Sydney and did some national and international touring with them as well. Right. And then after that, I was hungry to get my own songs out there again.
Yep, sure. You certainly have kept busy then, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Simon?
No, I did diddly squat. In the realms of music anyway, I
just having a break.
Yeah, wasn't doing anything. It was, the break, I think after playing in the band for such a long time, it was actually nice to have a break for a while.
Yeah.
And rest my neck muscles, rest my throat muscles.
Absolutely. Well, you have come back absolutely swinging, that's for sure. So it's paid off.
Yeah.
I actually have a question from an Instagram where I put the feelers out if someone would like to ask a question. I picked this one. It's from Rob Dunn. He's an Aussie metalhead, massive fan of you guys. He would like to know. He would like to know if this new album is a reawakening for Abramelin permanently by way of releases in the near future, or would this remain a passion project where you surprise us with a great album every 5 to 10 years, etc.?
10 to 20.
10 to 20. He did say 10 to 20 to start with.
I know. But
I've already got new material underway anyway, so just everyone else has to catch up now.
Yeah, it's look, Tim was sitting on a lot of these songs for a long time. In one form or another. I'll let you speak about that a little bit more, Tim, from a musical perspective. Lyrically, I sort of, although I had some ideas floating around in my head, I batched these out in the last few years since we reformed. But yeah, I think it's just letting the dust settle on Never Enough Snuff to start with.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Sort of, you know, I mean, like the thing most importantly at the moment is that we're hanging to get out and tour this album, you know, which is that's first and foremost. So as soon as the restrictions are lifted on venues and they're allowed a decent amount of people again, then we'll be straight into it. Which
Yeah,
we're super excited about. Yeah.
Good news. Tim and Simon, you guys have been a part of this band from the beginning. Simon, you were there in '88. Tim, you joined just the year after. You guys have gone through quite a few lineup changes in that time, disbanding, banding again. What's the synergy like for the band and the lineup as it is now, and how is it different and in a more positive sense, I suppose? The staying power.
I think we're all in it because we love it, and I think we're all in it because we're all really good mates.
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, I mean, we've always had sort of members come and go, and I don't know why we lost guys over the years. Sometimes it was as we were progressing, they weren't progressing with us. Mm-hmm. But now, I mean, the guys we use now, we're trying so hard to keep up with their playing ability. You know, they're really making me work really hard to be able to keep up. I mean, playing with a guitarist like Matt Wilcock, he is just ridiculous. He's so good. And if I let my chops slacken off, I'm going to look like an idiot. So he's keeping me on my toes all the time.
Good one.
And he's terribly good, isn't he?
Yeah. And when you've got a drummer like that,
yeah, it's look, I think with the lineup we've got now too, apart from being friends and having the same sense of humour, you have to have an excellent sense of humour when you're playing this level of death metal. So we all get along quite well. It's always just, we laugh continuously when we tour. As Tim said, I think it's having the same idea, the same passion. Like everyone's, like we're in it because we love death metal. You don't do death metal because like it's, you know, a great career move. It's probably the worst one you could make. There's not a lot in it. It's that like niche of a niche of a niche, you know, is like what we're doing. And you know, I know we don't do ourselves any favors with the imagery and the lyrical content and everything else, but that's part and package of it. So it's definitely all about the passion, which keeps us going strong.
Yeah, definitely, and definitely felt that in this album, that's for sure. And good to see you guys are having fun with it as well, not taking it all too seriously. I think that's important as well, for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty serious if you look at the CD, but then if you talk to us or watch us on stage, you know that we're just having fun.
Very true. Tell me about the concept of Never Enough Snuff, from when the concept came about to, you know, how long it actually took to put together and release.
I'll talk about the concept of the package and everything else, and Tim, you can talk about the recording side of it and how all that came together. So conceptually, Never Enough Snuff was the very first song lyrically that I wrote when we came back together as a band. So we were getting ready for, I can't remember if this is before we did Metal for the Brain, Tim. I'm sorry, Metal for Melbourne. I think it was. But we were in the rehearsal studio and Tim's like, right, I've got a new song, which to me is like, what am I going to do for the next half an hour? Sit down and twiddle my thumbs. So I thought, right, the boys are learning a new song. I'm writing a new song. So I got my phone, I sat there and just bashed out Never Enough Snuff in about 20 minutes, and pretty much exactly what it is. It was like no changes to the lyrics. So at that point in time, because that was the first song to come through, that's what I wanted to have as the name of the album, should an album eventuate. And of course, as the months rolled by and then Tim started introducing more songs, it was clear that we were heading in the direction of going to do an album. Because once again, Snuff was first, then I very much wanted to do the concept of staging a Snuff film, which is what we did. And I shouldn't really be giving too much away about the album cover, but I think I just did.
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
but I'm not going to tell you what it looks like. You have to find out for yourself. So that's pretty much what the concept was. Over to you, Tim. You can talk about the recording process.
Yeah, well, I suppose I've been working on the songs on and off for around about 10 years, putting down riffs, getting arrangements organised, putting it all to click tracks, listening to it for a year and then going back and thinking, I want to make some changes, and just really sort of just sprucing it up as the years went on. And finally, when we got the band back together, it was all about, okay, here's the songs, give the guys on click tracks, see what they think. And yeah, everyone learnt them. We started playing them. And what Dave did for the drums just lifted the songs again another 100%, you know.
Big drum tracks, yeah.
Yeah, like I couldn't imagine. I had ideas for beats I wanted, and he just took it to the next level. So much more than I could ever have imagined. You know, he made it something that it was never going to be without him. So kudos to Dave on that one.
Yeah, amazing drum tracks in this album, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's all amazing. But let's talk about the lyrical content, because that is something that I always hone in on. Lyrics are big for me, and this is just perfectly, you know, unhinged, deranged. It's offensive and violent, exactly how death metal should be. I feel like whenever I listen to any of your work, it's like a short horror adaptation or a horror novel, you know, of the most heinous kind. So I've got to ask, where does it come from? It's got to be horror related, but are you guys
100%?
Yeah, it's a bit of a stupid question, but because I love horror as well, are you more into the old school horrors, horror novels? Where directly does this come from?
I read a lot. These days I read predominantly what's called splatterpunk.
Okay.
So I've grown up on a pretty steady series of horror, like my entire life, right from the very start, from when I first started reading. I think, and this is going to sound like bullshit, but it's not. This is a true story. The very first book I ever read cover to cover was The Exorcist, which I read probably about, I don't know, 2 years before seeing the film, because I was too young to see the film. Then I had to con our next door neighbours in who had a VHS player to actually be able to watch it. Exciting time in my life. The first part of a book I read was The Shining. And then from there, it all, like with my music, all went downhill in a good way. So with my metal listening taste, started off, you know, around Iron Maiden, and then I discovered German thrash, and then it just kept getting heavier. And down it went until I was like tape trading brutal death metal. And it's been the same thing with horror. So I started off reading, you know, back then, I suppose in the early days, Stephen King, and then into Lovecraft. As soon as I discovered Lovecraft, that was a game changer. Then moved on to Clive Barker, and then Graham Masterton, and then it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. and then I started discovering splatterpunk authors like Edward Lee is a favourite of mine. Definitely look up his work; he's fantastic.
I will.
Splatterpunk is like the, I suppose, X-rated horror. So like it crosses into a lot of porn, and the gore side of it is just right over the top, which suits me perfectly. So that's like excellent fodder for conjuring up images for songs. And then the songs, exactly as you said, they're all like just a mini horror novella or a horror film, if you like. I just come up with a concept, and then okay, I'm going to do a song about this, and then throw as much graphic imagery in as I possibly can without making it too cheesy.
Yeah, so. No, I think you've got the balance right, because you definitely conjure up these images and nastiness in your head as you're listening through, which is exactly what good lyrics should do. So, yeah, great lyrical content.
Thank you. That was the I mean, that's always been a big part of me with the band is to have the lyrics very cutting edge and very punchy to go with the music. I mean, there's no point having really, really brutal music and then your lyrics are just sort of meh. And the same vice versa as well. And definitely the same with the imagery as well too. Like I always wanted the imagery to match the lyric and musical content as well.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking about Aussie death metal, as I said, I do feel like it's so unhinged and deranged, and we're just so good at doing it that way. And people outside of Australia notice this as well. You know, it's like a brutal pub fight when you're listening to it. What do you think it is about Aussie death metal that just does separate it from the rest of the world?
I think we're so far away from everyone else, and especially in the beginnings of the whole death metal thing, late 80s, early 90s, no one even really knew there was a scene much coming from Australia at all. And we needed to prove ourselves to be, you know, up there with them, and we just had to do more. We had to try harder, we had to push harder. And I think that's when we got noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting because I get a lot of those comments from people from England and America about just how unique Aussie death metal is, and they love it for that because it is so just just so rough and ready and yeah, violent, which is what death metal is. It's death metal.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's it.
um,
And a lot of the time, we didn't have the studios out here that we used to recording such heavy music as well. So a lot of engineers and stuff, that was all experimental for them to try and get the sounds right and to get those drums sounding those huge and the guitars so tight and heavy as well. And we just got influence from listening to other CDs from other bands from Europe and America. And then all of a sudden, we've got engineers that have got their own sounds as well.
Yeah.
And nowadays, we've got new engineers who are just pulling out the most amazing sounding recordings. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to keep up with how much greatness is coming out of the world, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely progressed in all areas for sure. Not just like the bands and their talent, but yeah, also with engineers and producers domestically as well. I think has definitely come a long way.
Absolutely. So the reaction to Never Enough Snuff, obviously you guys have had great reaction so far, and it's only early days from media. But what's the reaction been? You've obviously got a very solid and loyal fan base. Have you guys been getting direct feedback from fans? How are your album sales going? How are you gauging this feedback from fans, which is probably more important than what media think? But
yeah, I mean, for me, it's. Oh, sorry, Tim. I'll just jump in quickly. It's very much about what the fans think for us. I mean, it's. Yeah. For me, it's all about the fans. There's no point doing what we're doing if they're not there. We're just essentially playing to no one, and a couple of guys just sort of jamming, really. So but they've been incredibly supportive from the moment that we got back together. Actually, even before that, but especially from when we got back together, they've been nothing than holding space and standing beside us solidly and egging us on and, convincing us to do an album and the whole bit. So as soon as the album actually launched, of course, they were all there and, so many pre-sales and just, hungry to hear what we've done. And then, of course, once it's out, well, the notes that we've been getting through from people have been, just as Tim said at the start, overwhelming. Like you read stuff and you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
This is incredible. It's really humbling.
Not enough.
Yeah, I think that certainly it seems like my Facebook and Insta feed's been flooded with pictures of your album cover and it's arrived and so you definitely have a lot of fans out there, that's for sure. You guys have been in the scene for a long time, starting in the late 80s to now. You would have seen a huge change in the industry, both the live scene and in the context of putting this album out. How has it kind of helped you, for better or worse, in relation to the release of this album?
Well, the internet's made the world a lot smaller. So literally you get instant feedback from anything you do straight away, which is fantastic. So you can gauge what to do next from the way people accept what you've done. And also with cheap international travel, that's made things like, if you want to tour overseas, it's actually something you can do. In the 90s, that was an impossible thought, unless you had massive money from a record label or something for tour support. It just wasn't something we could ever have imagined doing. And times have changed for the better, but also times have changed where physical CD sales are literally, compared to digital, you're never ever going to sell the amount of CDs we would have sold in the 90s, or at least I don't think so. What do you think, Simon?
No, you're quite correct there, Tim. Look, we'll chew through some sales. I mean, I think where we have an advantage is because of the fact that we are whole farts, that we've got a loyal fan base that are still collectors, and a lot of metalheads are collectors as well too, which is like really good, and we can sort of play to that. I think if we were playing another genre of music, to have any sort of physical sales now would be pretty tough. So look, that definitely helps. I mean, the current world situation with a pandemic going on is a real pain in the ass because we can't tour and we can't get out there to actually sell stuff at shows, which is really frustrating. So we're completely relying on online sales at the moment, which is good. I mean, people are jumping on and they're picking up the bundles and packages where they can and the CDs, but it's definitely not the same as being out there to do do the sales direct to customers out at gigs, which is really where all the action happens these days. And that's sort of like was the issue with the vinyl as well. I mean, the vinyl was something that we really wanted to have out on day one of release. The artwork's ready to go. It's all sitting over at Zenith waiting. They just got to push the button and it's ready. But we were literally about to do it. Like we were literally about to do our first video clip, and then everything fell to shit when the fucking restrictions came in.
I know the timing of it for you guys.
Look, it's a lot. There's a lot more people a lot worse off than us. All right. Yeah. I have to spare a thought for our poor drummer Dave, who like lost out on a whole carcass tour and everything else that affected him. Like he was really complicated. But we're not talking about you at the moment, Dave. Sorry.
What, Dave?
So, it was really, really frustrating. Yeah, the vinyl thing was ready to go, and then I thought, you know what, we're going to be sitting on thousands and thousands of dollars worth of stock that we just can't sell.
Can't move. Yeah.
We'd already all of our money that we'd saved up was blown on the recording and the manufacturing of the CDs, which I put into production probably 2 weeks before the restrictions hit. So, would I have gone the other way around had I had my time again? I don't know, but it is what it is, and this is where we are. But there will be vinyl eventually, as soon as we get a little bit closer to touring and we can recoup some cash through from the online sales at the moment.
So that was actually a question I had from another Instagrammer, which you've answered, but just to shout him out, Instagrammer Lifer SMF was asking that exact question. Are you going to be bringing out Never Enough Snuff on vinyl? So you've answered that, which is great. Good to know, because there certainly are a lot of people collecting their vinyl again. So I'm one of them, which is burning a big hole in my pocket. But they're so nice to have, they're so nice to have. Let's talk live shows though, because obviously it is such a shame for you guys not being able to get out there and do your thing with this album right away, like I'm sure you were anticipating. But I was lucky enough to see you guys last year at the Direct Underground Festival in Sydney, where you were supporting Dark Funeral, and then you melted my face off again at the New Dead Festival in Adelaide. You guys are just you just play so hard. You don't have any gimmicks. It's just you guys up there in your skin playing hard. The energy that you throw off is it's so intense. Apart from obviously getting together and practicing before a gig, do you guys go through any process for yourself personally to be able to bring that energy? Particularly you, Simon, as a front person, because you really are quite intimidating on stage, as well as fun, but it's a huge show to go and watch Abramelin, that's for sure. How do you do it?
For me, it's basically just feeding off the music that the boys are putting out, and feeding off the crowd as well too. If people are really getting into it, then I'm getting into it. If they're not getting into it, then I dig deeper to make them get into it. So,
right.
I'll single people out in the audience and just stare at them and just right up in their face and like, I got a reaction.
Slightly intimidating.
But it's, as well as like, trying to keep it tough and scary and everything else too. We'll have a lot of fun on stage as well. So, we'll be 1 minute like screaming and being all death metal and stuff, and then I'll turn around and like flick Tim on the bum or something.
My part.
Yeah. Tim, do you want to throw in on that?
Oh, just riffs, No, I mean, you feed off each other as well. Like, we're not one of those bands that's going to, I suppose, for us, the musician side of the band, we spend more time laughing at each other while we're playing songs because we're having so much fun than we do trying to look all brutal,
Yeah.
We have a ball with it. And, the lyrics, they're brutal enough. We can sort of lay back and just enjoy ourselves. And when we were younger, we used to try and put it on and be so heavy and be so rough. Just enjoy it.
Just have fun.
Plus, we're always got these little in jokes that we're giving each other across stage and stuff anyway. So we keep ourselves.
I noticed the banter. Which is always good to see. It gives, I think it gives the band character when you see that on stage, that's for sure, having a bit of a joke at yourself. So what is the plan for you guys? I mean, it's really hard to know what's happening with COVID. Obviously, we don't know when the live scene's going to take back up. Do you have a bit of a plan though for when you get the go ahead and venues start taking on gigs again, are you planning on touring, major capital cities here in Australia, or taking this album overseas? What's your plan?
I suppose nationally, straight away. Just all the majors in Australia, let's get out there. I'd love to do some regionals, but it just always depends if it's an affordable thing to do. We don't know how much travel's going to cost once it gets back out there. We don't know if we're going to have to get back into van touring again, just because maybe the flights might be way too expensive. Yeah. We suppose we're just going to have to look at it as soon as we know where we can go when we're allowed out again. Then we'll take it from that, and then work out costs, I suppose. It all comes down to money, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is a tricky one at this point in time because, I don't know. Flights is an interesting one too, because isn't like Virgin now kaput? So we're sort of like relying on, Qantas and the other low-rate carriers to sort of get us around.
We've been Virgins forever.
So we'll see how all of that goes. Also, it'll be interesting to see how we go with venues. I mean, let's say, for example, now you've got a venue that's like, right, restrictions are up, you're good to rock and roll. Are you going to have 500 bands try and book that venue immediately and you know, there's going to be a big shit fight? Or is it going to be the opposite? A band's going to be quite reserved and then venues are like, really hungry to get artists in. Like we just really don't know how it's going to play out. Yeah. And great venues that were there, are they going to come back or are they going to go under? How long can they sustain? I mean, I know I've got a couple of friends who own pubs and they're like, we've still got to pay the rent. We've still got to pay our liquor license. We've still got to pay all this other bullshit in the meantime. So
not getting any money.
How's that going to fare for them? And I know, sorry, I'm going to talk about Dave again because I can't help myself. Dave, and also for Rob too, actually, who are both promoters. How is this going to affect small to medium-sized promoters as well? Are they going to be able to bounce back and start booking bands again from losses that they've suffered at the back end of everything that was going to happen over the last few months? So it is going to be a really, really interesting time. So even if we're ready to rock and roll straight away, let's just say that it's ready to go from July 1st, just to pluck a date out of the air, we're ready to go. Will the rest of Australia be ready to go from booking venues, flights, this, that, everything else, all the other pieces of the puzzle that we need to get us around? I'd like to think we should be able to do Melbourne relatively easy and find a venue there. But the rest of the country might be a little bit of a waiting game.
Yeah, it's a hard question because it's such an unknown, but I guess it's just that good news that you are thinking about it, and obviously as soon as you can, you're going to be taken to the stage. So I think that's more so what fans are wanting to hear with all the bands at the moment, because everything's just come to such a halt and everyone's feeling the pinch. It's just such a crazy time. But hopefully we'll see you on the stage sooner rather than later, that's for sure, and all this is over. You guys, thank you so much for having this chat with me. Never Enough Snuff. Absolutely brutal. This is just, I swear to God, this is going to make my top albums this year.
Yours now, yes.
This is on your Bandcamp. It's also on your shop now on your Facebook. Is there anywhere else that people can grab this plus some merch? Because I know you've got some pretty deadly merch as well.
It's pretty much just the shop and through Bandcamp at the moment. I know when I uploaded everything through digital, Spotify went through straight away. Apple Play, Apple Music and Google Play are lacking a little bit. I've got to actually check them to see if they're up today.
Yep.
I am talking to an export company at the moment. I've actually literally dropped off some CDs to them today so we can try and get some stock overseas, because I know just like with the post and everything being as screwy as it is, it's really hard to reach some countries at the moment, and the post is really expensive. Yeah, so if we can get set up with some distributors overseas would be really cool. Artist First. So what?
Direct merch as well.
Oh yes, and direct. Dave's direct as well. But Artist First too. Stop talking about Dave.
Dave on here.
So Artist First are helping us out with getting out to some stores as well. So hopefully a few retailers will be picking it up. So keep your eyes peeled. But usually just via the link on our Facebook page is the best way to get the CD and other Abra merch pretty easily.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, it was so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. And if there's anything you would like to, some last words for the video for people that are watching, take the floor. Go for it.
Go, Si. No problem with me. Buy it. It's great. We love it. Hope you love it too. Thanks.
Yeah. Look,
All right, guys.
I think it's a great follow up to Dead Speak, and sorry fans that it took 20 years to get out there, but better late than never.
Worth the wait. Worth the wait.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys. It was great talking to you.
Thanks, Cal.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Return the scars. A doublet over a wall, and a dirt by baseball. Watch you God as I shine.